Well, good morning, everyone. How are you on this beautiful July 4th, 2025? What a amazing day that many of us celebrate. Independence Day, our Freedom Day. How fortunate are we? If you have just tuned into this live, I so appreciate you being here. Well, I get these slide decks all going. Why don't you just go ahead and let me know where you're tuning in from? I'm going to give you all a second to catch up. Hey, Truth. Hey, Latitude, Lily, Ray, Karen, welcome. I hope you all had a fabulous night last night. I am looking for a document that I thought I had loaded. Oops. You know how that goes. There's just been so much in the last few days on my mind, and obviously a lot of you have things on your mind that just doesn't make sense. And I know we are all trying to put the pieces together of the puzzle, but there's so much information that we just don't have. So much. Trying to make sense of this. Ada County, shout out. Shout out. You lucky you tuned in just in time. Well, welcome to the mix. I've got some fireballs that I'm going to drop today. I'm just waiting for this picture to load. South Africa in the house. Welcome. Welcome. It's driving me crazy. Betcha not. It won't be released. This stuff is going to be hidden for a while, guys. Australia in the house. Whoop, whoop. California, my second most favorite state. Ada County. I was born and raised in California, by the way. Philadelphia. Whoop, in the house. Welcome, welcome. Let's see who else we have here. Happy 4th of July to you, Karen. I hope that you enjoy the eats and the shows. If you're going to see fireworks. Lily, happy 4th of July to you. I almost said happy fireworks day. Okay, we'll go with that. Happy 4th from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Happy day indeed. So, my picture's not loading. Who knows? Technology is not always perfect. Remember that, folks. Technology. Yes, I have a background in technology. And I will be the first or the second or the third to tell you that technology is never perfect. So much can go wrong with technology. So much. Hey, Eve, welcome, 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 welcome. Come on in. Tell me where you're tuning in from. If this is the first time you've ever heard my live show, throw a 1 in the comments. Throw a 1 at me. I want to know who my first timers are. And we've got a Colorado in the house. Beautiful state. Beautiful. Love it. Especially in the fall. Yeah, and hit a thumbs up. Greatly appreciated. And I'll get right into this. I think I titled this, Did Idaho Pick the Wrong Fall Guy? 1, I see a lot of 1s. Hey, Teresa, welcome in. Welcome in, y'all. Come and grab a seat, sit down, and let's talk about this. Did Idaho pick the wrong fall guy? I did a video a little while ago on YouTube. No, I'm sorry, on the TikTok streets. And I basically titled it, Who is Brian Kohberger? Who is Brian Kohberger? Did an interview with one of his friends, and William said some interesting things when I asked him certain questions. And I know my screen is not working. We're just going to wait a minute here. And in the question, I asked him strategically, Birdie Bombshells, if you've ever heard of him, he has a YT and a TikTok, and we met on TikTok, and we've been working and talking for a few months, and then I jumped over to the YT. He jumped over to the YT, and I've been on his lives, and I've been on a couple of other people's lives, and I decided, you know what? Why don't I just start my own YouTube account? And, we have a similar thought process, melded minds, like minds. And, birds of a feather, we stick together. He's a birdie, I'm a phoenix. And I'm old enough to be his own mother. I'm old enough to be Brian Koberger's mother, you guys. I have a 37-year-old. Do I have it? Yeah, she's going to be 37. And I've got two 30s actually. And by the way, we just had a new grandbaby in our family, and he's about 3 weeks old, and he's so handsome. But I say that with a grain of salt because I looked at the videos, I rewatched the live videos that I recorded myself personally, and I saw the way that Ann Taylor was looking at Brian Koberger. Now, remember, attorneys have a code that they must abide by. Attorneys have the responsibility, and mind you, I am no legal professional. I am no lawyer. I am no paralegal. And someone messaged me and said, man, I didn't know that you were a paralegal. I'm like, no, I am not. I can only tell you what I've experienced in my own court cases and watching criminal cases in live person, and also a few other things. And I gave them a list. And when I looked at the list, I was like, you have to be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. And so let me read you real quick before I get into that. Let me read you this list, okay? When I looked at the list, I had to think, God, did I really tell them that? I can't believe I just shared that information. Okay, so this guy messaged me and says, look at written factual basis where June is struck through without the date. And I did see that because I know from my own experience, the court will not accept a document that is kind of weird, like it doesn't follow the guidance rules of evidence or admissions. And he says it's struck through without both parties' initials. Now, obviously, in some banks, some official document statements, even if you go and buy a house, people, if you make a mistake, what's the first thing they tell you to do because it is a legal document? From your own experience, what did they tell you to do? They tell you to cross it out and initial it. That's what they tell you to do. And the reason that is because you have a legal document that must be signed by someone else to verify that that is a true and accurate document. So when you see that it's not a true and accurate document on the court, in a court of law, is that really a true document? He says this practice helps to create a clear record, which I agree, of parties' consent to the changes made in the document, enhancing its enforceability. It's always advisable to consult with a legal professional to ensure that modifications comply with specific legal standards and requirements. I believe that. So I responded with him real quick last night. I saw this. It's wild. He said, yeah, you're a paralegal, question mark. No, I said. Oh, I watched your videos and thought you were. Well, I'm honored. I'm honored. Believe me, guys. I probably should have went in that route, in that direction. So I said, nope, just on my own experience. Criminal case, parentheses, victim, witness, parentheses, trial. Civil cases, plaintiff and defense, 2 trials. Custody cases, plaintiff, 3 trials. CPS case, defense, no state trial. The state returned my child to me. Military law case, I was the victim. And a criminal case, I was the victim. He says, wow, a lot of exposure and great insights on your behalf. Yeah, too much insight. In the states of North Carolina, Idaho, and Texas, all public record. One of those cases is factually sealed. Now, the reason I bring all this up is that I am no legal expert, but I know enough to know that the document that was signed was probably prepared early on. And it makes you wonder, why and what have we been watching for the longest time? Did the state pick the wrong guy via the feds? Have you guys asked yourself that question with everything that was going on in the federal investigation in that area? Did the state pick the wrong guy via the feds? Oh, hey guys, I was watching the chat. Hey, Birdie. Yeah, I would agree with you. Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. But with that being said, thank you. I really appreciate that comment coming from you. Mutual respect. And I will address the video that people are sharing where it says that Maddie and Kaylee were not human beings. And that video is altered. I saw the ABC video that was put out. That video is altered. Guys, if you watch Judge Hippler's lips move, he says human being. Why would the media, why would ABC manipulate a live court hearing? Why would they do that? I'm slowly learning the YT. Slowly learning. Why? Yes, Bertie, I just addressed that too. I just saw that. It's kind of crazy to kind of look at 2 different screens, watching one, trying to share the other. It's wild. And it's been many, many years since I was in corporate America and had 2 screens. So, yeah, why would they? Why? So now, yesterday on my live, I went and I showed you the other sheriff criminal sealed return of service. I don't know if that was a actual arrest for the sheriff or a subpoena they could no longer serve, but it was sealed. And Bertie, I will see you Sunday. I will be on and we will rock and roll. So have a good weekend. Have a safe 4th of July with your family if you got to bail. And like I said in the beginning, happy 4th of July. We are talking about, did the state pick the wrong guy via the feds? And, you know, I have a feeling they did. I have a feeling they picked the wrong guy to take the fall. Did Bika Barlow put info for Brian? I don't know, but I am waiting. And I don't know, I'll say it again for this live. I actually sent Brian Koberger a message. And the way you do that, it's called gettingout.com. You go and you put in your information. You put in the Ada County Jail where you are looking to send the incarcerated individual. You can send them funds on their tablet. You can send funds to your communication so that you can communicate, and you can also donate to the commissary so that they can buy what they need, yada, yada, yada. There is a tablet option too, where they can have some interaction with other people, play games and stuff like that. So that is available on his account if you go to gettingout.com. And yes, I have messaged and I have put money on his accounts in the past and just most recently. to have that communication with the outside world. And why would I do such a thing? People ask. Ooh, you're so weird. That's so freaking strange and odd. You're psychotic. What is wrong with you? This guy killed 4 people. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with you that you don't have any compassion or heart for someone who has a disability, guys? Did he actually do this? So what's the first thing I do? I engage with my 17-year-old son who has autism since the age of 4.5, diagnosed clinically, on medication, in special ed, in any OT and speech therapy you can get. And it hit me so hard when someone said this about me. I went to my son and I asked him, if you were ever framed and they were going to sentence you to death, like seriously, shoot you with no one standing behind a weapon in a locked, sealed room, would you ask to be let out of the death penalty? And he said, I would only hope no one would ever manipulate me into doing something like this to where I'd have to face that consequence. And I was like, what did you just say? He said, I hope that no one would ever manipulate me to be in that type of position to where I got in trouble. And I thought, who manipulated Brian? Is it possible somebody manipulated Brian? Was he in the wrong place at the wrong time, hanging out with the wrong crowd? Or was he sent in to find out information? Because these kids are like mental weapons. Mental weapons, you guys. And I'm going to share an experience, and I want you to think about this. My son will respond the best ever with this thought process when he is medicated. When he was away from me, unmedicated, he was a freaking mess. I'm just going to pause there for a minute. The medication that they use for those with autism, ADHD, OCD, ODD, the whole spectrum, Asperger's, is medication that's a stimulant that stimulates the brain into focusing. Now, if Brian allegedly was unmedicated for his mental issues or autism, then yes, he probably was looking for alternative substances to help him focus, to do well, to stay awake. It may have even kept him in a state of insomnia. Guys, those with autism, with any mental disposition, they usually cannot sleep well. They have a lack of melatonin. There is brain chemistry that is not correct, and it's genetic. Now, with that being said, I want you to understand that came from a 17-year-old with autism, with ADHD. Now, if Brian was hanging out with the wrong crowd because, according to Dateline and everyone else, he was an incel and nobody was interested in him, didn't have a girlfriend, which I think intellectually he had some people that he absolutely connected with in a awkward social situation, because I've seen this in my own experience, that when my son is not medicated, it is awkward, very awkward socially. So, something that I've watched in this case from day one is knowing that when they arrested him, he said some odd things allegedly. He looks odd. They've talked about his autism in the files. They talked about his tics. Ann Taylor even put in a motion because she knows he is probably unmedicated. They don't, and I'm just going to preface this. I feel very strongly to share this, and I want everyone to keep a humble opinion, please. When my ex-husband could not handle my son during his vacations, and his stepmom would not know how to handle him either, they would give up and they would get him in trouble. He would do things that were unacceptable, but the way they responded was to put him in juvenile detention. Call the police, get him arrested, throw him in the system. And I thought to myself, what in the world? Why would a parent be okay with this? Right? What would, why? Why would somebody do that? And I started thinking, and I started seeing after the state asked for an investigation in my son's juvenile detention case on his parent and step parent. And it blew my mind when the investigation came back, is that they didn't know how to parent somebody with special needs. And so their only way to take action was to get the police involved because they believe the police have the authority to shape them, put them in shape and do the right thing. And it's crazy. Yes, it infuriated me, Katie, to the point where I had several times filed documentation asking my son to be returned, where his father refused, and then it became kidnapping and CPS got involved. But the short moral of the story is that these people with special needs, autism, OCD, ADHD, number one, many cannot get by without being medicated. From what I hear and I understand, it is unconstitutional to incarcerate somebody and not give them the mental help that they need. And quickly did I learn through a very smart ex-military JAG attorney, a military law attorney that was working in the public defender's office that went private because he didn't like what he was seeing. He told me these institutions are not made for people that have these disabilities. Clearly, they don't. So I asked my husband, I said, do you ever think my son would harm anyone? Does he get angry sometimes when he doesn't get his way or have meltdowns? Absolutely. Is that brain chemistry? Absolutely. Thank God I have the patience and the understanding, and I actually went through a lot of training to help him through NAMI. NAMI is a great resource. If you've never been NAMI certified, go and look into National Alliance on Mental Illness. You will learn a lot about people. I've helped so many people with autism. I helped an adult individual who was autistic, special need, deaf, and blind. I learned how to sign to understand and communicate with them. An adult, and a previous lady who was older, and she had some serious psychotic mental issues. But she got to a point where she could no longer live on her own. Now, with that being said, did the state pick the wrong guy via the feds? Was Brian Koberger an informant? Did they use his knowledge and his amazing intelligence skills to locate and find the local criminal element in these colleges? Did they groom him to get with the crowd that would most likely accept him and do their bidding? Was he delivering in the area allegedly? My mind kind of thought, dang, he got this job from Pennsylvania, went all the way to Washington, Pullman, Washington, of all places. Who in the hell would go from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington? That place is a cesspool of, if you know, you know. Go all the way there with no job as a master's student. I'm sure he got paid some money. But if he was there and not under the care of his parents and was not medicated and perhaps was working with the local police departments guys for some extra bank, or told to go in and be an informant and get in as deep as you can, do whatever you got to do, and got caught up with the wrong freaking crowd. Yeah. Did they pick the wrong guy via the feds? Did they know maybe he had autism? Did they know he was super, super intelligent, well skilled? I mean, come on, guys. He studied criminology, the minds of criminals. It didn't mean he was going to go and commit crimes. He has been sitting in jail. We've heard that he gets sodas. We've heard that he gets vegan meals. We heard, well, he looks pretty tanned here. He must be getting some outside time in Boise. We've heard so many things about this. And I keep going back to, did they pick the wrong guy? And I think to myself, they picked the wrong guy and treated him unconstitutionally. Is he the pawn? Did he find the the one who was using in 1122 King Road? Has he just been sitting there for years, not being a snitch, not telling anyone until the time the four perpetrators came out and they violated his constitutional rights? No Franks hearing. That's a Brady violation. Exculpatory evidence hiding that is a Brady violation too. Not getting him the help he needs in prison is another one. There's a lot of more questions since he has pled guilty to these unalivings. I don't think this awkward person may have done this, but let me give you a different perspective for a minute. And this is from my own experience. When my son is medicated on this stimulant they have to provide every 30 days because it's a controlled substance, you know what I'm talking about, guys. If you know, you know. He is the most focused, polite, caring, loving, outgoing individual. And when he's not medicated, he is clumsy. He can't follow a recipe. He gets frustrated. His mind is going in a million places. And most of all, he gets some little anger issues if he doesn't get his way. Now, that may be too obviously people saying, oh, that's bad parenting. No, they're conditioned that they want what they want, and they are not going to be satisfied until they get it. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, saying that if Brian was truly unmedicated and was using, again, we know that allegedly he has a past to this, did he hang out with the wrong crowd? Was he a delivery man for rugs? Makes me think he was put there for a specific reason to do a specific thing, and someone within the federal organization said, well, we need somebody to take the fall. We need somebody to put in prison to tell the people that they're safe now. Let's go through some of these comments. Karen, yes, that's what I've seen on another channel. Tracy, I see you, Farley. Yeah, we know who Farley is, right? He's sitting over there in the jail. He was out on, which blows my mind, guys. How many people do you see they let out of jail to go and visit a dying loved one? Farley must have had some special pull to be let out of prison, out of jail, to roam the streets, go do what he wants, and didn't return back, and they had to put an arrest warrant out for him. If you know, you know. As a matter of fact, I think I still have his information pulled up right here in the jail roster because I was looking at the jail rosters, and I do this every time to time. Yeah, here it is. Latah County. Let me share this with you so that you know. Let me just put this up here so you guys can see this. Let me see. Share screen. Bam. If you know, you know. And we have Joshua Allen Couch. Does that sound familiar? Is that Ashlyn's brother? Maybe. If you've never gone through these jail rosters, y'all. Wow. All right. Hopefully you can definitely see that. Here we have Tyson Michael Farley, allegedly, who you've heard on the actual audio that we've heard. Now, according to my timeline, which I have a 4-page whiteboard documentation of the timeline, I See You, Farley was about a little after 2 a.m. And this is Farley. And let's just see let me see if I can maximize this screen so you can see it better. Okay, there you have Tyson Farley. He was very well known in this little game of parallel investigations, Fed investigations, Operation Take Back America, taking down that pipeline in that area. And Farley was found again June 2nd of 2025. Possession, controlled substance, paraphernalia, possessed to use, Schedule 2, 1 count, 3 counts, no bond, and there's Farley. So that's someone that we've heard about in this circle of parallel investigation, which is pretty interesting. So when you think about, man, did they get the wrong guy? Well, maybe they pinned it on the wrong guy so that for the next 2.5 years they can take down the right guys. And that's what leads me to believe that Brian Koberger may, just may, be, I would say, if you think about what I talked about yesterday, he just may be protected. Now, the plea deal, documentation is quite odd. I don't think it's a formal binding legal document. And like I said, court is weird. I've seen people plea down to save face, plea down to misdemeanors so they don't have felony charges on their record, plea down to things that they probably wouldn't even consider unless they had a legal strategy. So is he being protected? Well, if he would have faced the death penalty, it would have been a lot worse to go down that legal strategy to determine that perhaps he probably couldn't get out of that. But they pled down so that he would be able to perhaps get out of that. So now that they have the DP off the table, was there a deal made to protect Brian Koberger? Well, I think that perhaps they realized we messed with the wrong guy. We let this intelligent individual become possibly a confidential informant or work with the local police department to take down these criminals. And they believed he did it via the feds. When you start thinking about what was his motives, he didn't have a motive. And people say, oh, because he's calculated, he's manipulative, he's a narcissist. And I've never seen this guy exude any of those traits, and I'm no experienced professional in those areas, but boy, was I married to a narcissist. And I will tell you that gaslighting is real. Crazy. So, I've seen some of the videos. Yes, you guys have sent me them. I do appreciate every single one of you. I've seen the videos that you've sent me in regards to the threats that SG has made verbally. He's a hurting guy. His daughter is gone off the face of this planet. He's feeling the hurt he didn't protect his daughter. There's more to this. I believe with my whole heart that Brian will be getting the mental help that he will need. I believe that. But the S1 document that we see in the repository for the state of Idaho, let me pull that up. I want to show you something. I talked about this on live before. I've talked about it in a video I made. I've even said the footnotes are there in regards to the S1. And in March, I believe March of this year. Hold on, I want to go back to March 19th. And I know I need to put my notes in order like Bertie does. He is the bomb, I'll tell you. There was a order sealing motions of limity. Hold on, there was a document on 3/17, I believe. Hold on. IRE 404B, undisclosed. Where is it? Motions in limine, alibi, affidavit, inflammatory evidence. There was a motion in limine. Where are you? Let me just do a search. Hold on. Here it is. Order states motion in limine. Let me bring it up to the screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It was filed April 24th, 2025. And there was an order put in place. And I want to make this big enough so you guys can see this. I know some people have their own thought process on this, but when I went through these court documents, and I believe me, guys, I go through them with a fine-tooth comb. And if I see something that does not make sense to me, I dig. And what I found in regards to S1, it states 1. So States Exhibit 1, it's labeled S1. So S1 was the very first document that the state had filed as an exhibit. And what State 1 was, S1, was the grand jury transcripts, included the state's exhibit S1. There was no mental report done when this case started with S1. Okay? I just want to clarify that there's people out there that are trying to put the pieces together, and they're going by dates when Josh Hurwitz came on scene. Josh Hurwitz came on scene because there was a operation to take down the frickin' cartel in Idaho. They knew there was cryptocurrency being generated maliciously and wrongly used to hide the proceeds. They knew the cartel and the Greek life in Idaho were partnering with a local partnership that has been a problem with the feds for decades. Now, when they do a footnote in a document, they give you the answer in front of your face. If you are open-minded to learn more and read a document, they will tell you the answer. So when they use the little footnotes under the facts and they say S1, they're telling you that this is what it's referred to. And Judge Hippler put in this document a footnote so that for his own personal memory and the court, they could go back to that document very easily. And footnote 2, I'll read to you real quick and I'll put it back up on the screen so you see it. Footnote 2 clearly states that facts 2, section 3 of this document. After spending the evening out, roommates DM and BF, KG and Maddie returned to their home at 1122 King Road in the early morning hours of November 13th. That's exactly what it says. They met up at approximately 2 a.m. in Kaylee's bedroom and talked for a while before going to bed. Hopefully you can see this tab. I know it's small, but I'm reading it right from the documents. Okay? Facts is listed with a footnote 2, followed by this wording. So here we have Kaylee, Xana, Maddie, and Dylan in Kaylee's room at 2 a.m. Well, a lot of people say Kaylee moved out, but some of her stuff was still there. So why would they meet up in her bedroom at 2 a.m.? This is by Dylan's own testimony. So they met up in Kaylee's bedroom and talked for a while before going to bed. In another statement, DM was saying, let's go out, let's go get something to eat. They were hungry. BF, mind you, had just seen approximately the time frame. I have to look at my timeline. Approximately at 1 something was said that BF saw Xana and Ethan at the frat party. But see, Ellie can't account for them after 1:45 because the 5th roommate, Xana, who was out with her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, was not home yet. That means that Ethan and Xana were not home. I don't know why everyone's saying, oh, but Xana was on her phone at 4:12, got a DoorDash and all this other stuff. This is the facts, not the PCA, guys. The PCA says that they believe she was awake and got DoorDash. This is the actual judge putting this in finding of fact after all the hearings that we were not privy to, guys. The roommates debated going out to the food truck for a late night snack, prompting DM to send a text at 2:10 a.m. to an Uber driver she knew to see if he was driving. Exhibit D1. Ultimately, however, the girls decided to just go to bed. Now, the findings of facts in footnote 2, I'm going to read to you because this is the finding of fact that the judge found after the hearing. He didn't allow the prosecution nor the defense to write the orders. He wrote the orders himself. Usually, prosecution or the defense will write an order and the judge will sign off. He did these himself. 2, the parties submitted various portions of the grand jury transcript as different exhibits, including the state's S1 exhibit to the 911 call motion. Defendant's Exhibit 1 to his objection to the 911 call and the state's exhibit S21, that means S21 came way later than S1, and S3, the text message motion. To avoid confusion, the court will cite to the grand jury transcript rather than cite the individual exhibits. Okay, did you guys get that? To avoid confusion, the court will cite to the grand jury transcript rather than cite the individual exhibits that both parties submitted. Citations to DM and BF phone activity in bubble format attached as Exhibit 1 and 2, respectively, to defendant's objection to state text message motioning will be referenced as Exhibits D1 and D2. So S1 exhibit was the grand jury testimony where DM and BF testified at the grand jury. Hopefully that clears up some confusion. Okay, so when we look at that, we know that Xana and Ethan, we don't know what time they came home, and we don't know how they got home. I sure hope at 1:45 was the last time anyone saw Xana and Ethan. The last time anyone saw Xana and Ethan. So when you start thinking about, well, how did Xana and Ethan get home? There's a big gap because the feds and obviously Moscow were asking people, when's the last time you saw them? They were asking for public help in images, pictures, anything possibly shared that could prove the last proof of life for Xana and Ethan. Let me catch up on some of these comments. So, when you start looking at the documents, Xana just ate pizza. She didn't order DoorDash. I believe that's true. In my humble opinion, allegedly, according to the court documents, that is true. Now, guys, I have a binder of all the filings, even in Pennsylvania, and the PCA said some horrible stuff about Koberger. So Pennsylvania went out and arrested him. I often wonder how much more information did Koberger really have on the individuals in 1122? Did he even know them? Did he even make contact with them? I doubt it. But if he did, the only way that he could have made contact is somebody was using rugs in that home. I don't think it was Kaylee or Maddie. I think Maddie and Kaylee were going to snitch because they found out who was doing it. I honestly don't think it was Xana or Ethan, even though Xana's mom was and pending charges, and Ann Taylor was her defense attorney, prosecuting attorney. They were signed by the state as a public defender. Ann Taylor was going to represent Xana's mom. That's all court documents. Absolutely. The state, the defense, they can tell everything from their phones. They can tell. Why do you think they didn't want a trial? I don't think Brian's a cop. I think, if anything, he's an informant at the Fed level. That's my humble opinion. And they knew it. They knew they had to throw somebody under the bus. Was he a Fed that went rogue? Was he a confidential informant that went rogue? Maybe. Do I think he did this? Don't think so. The things I've heard about him, he would never harm an individual. He would never, he couldn't even fillet fish without getting sick. They had to fire him. His good friend said he would never hurt a fly, but he was always along for the ride, even when they were doing some criminal activity. But he always wondered why Brian never participated. Interesting. We don't know any autopsies. We don't know any toxicology. We don't know anything from anything because they have hidden this all from the public. And I think they put him in this position of being protected because the whole entire time this was going on, all these big pipelines in the area were falling down around him, and they moved him out of the county for his own protection. It wasn't to move the trial, guys. It was for his protection. They couldn't put him in a state of basically throwing him in prison with the people around him that were in there too. I just showed you the Latah County. There's some crazy people in there that have some wild charges. Brent Kopaka went berserk and Brian interviewed. I don't know if Kopaka worked with Koberger. I have no idea. The only thing that I have seen on his background that caused me to pause was that he had government contracts, that he may have worked with the government. That's the only thing I've seen with my own two eyes. That's the only thing I know. Does BK know cops and feds to become an informant? He applied at a non-paid internship with the state of Idaho, and I believe even Pullman, to work in the area of targeting why college life they commit crimes, and that's why he put the survey out there. But both departments, especially one of them, said that they couldn't comment without the lawyer's input when he asked if he worked with him. Couldn't make a comment until he could be advised by his attorneys. So, yeah, I've never seen a case with less evidence, actually no evidence, with the person getting life in prison. Well, they may have had to make it look like there was a knife sheath with his DNA on it to put him behind bars in protection so that no one could access him. Think about this. When you think about it becomes very interesting. What prison is Nathan Goncalves in? Idaho. I don't think Nathan is in Idaho. When you look him up, I think this happened in Washington. He might be in a Washington jail, prison. He still is. And with Nathan being in prison, y'all, I don't know if you know the history of this. He was convicted of murder, unaliving somebody. And he is allegedly the brother of our friend Steve G. And when you look at the history, he's a pretty violent guy. And I'm sure he knows some people in prison. And I'm sure he knows some groups in prison. And I think that perhaps, if you think about it, he knows some people. And those people know people in Idaho prisons. And they know people. And they know people who know people. So don't you think that if they put him in any type of prison, he would be eventually a target? Now, Lone Wolf, when you say that, they must have set up his Amazon account to purchase that knife, then try to buy it again. I can't believe they were able to do that. I don't know if you know, anything in this digital world can be manipulated. And did you know that Amazon has contracts with the federal government? Amazon actually hosts federal government contracts, federal government secrets. Their AWS division is huge in the government contract dealing arena. They can do whatever they want to make anything look the way they want to pull this off. I have seen some memorials, not seen the death certificates, but in court, Judge Hippler did state all four were human beings. That is a legal term of unalived. So I've not seen the death certificates. In Idaho, the statute is 50 years until they have to release them unless you are a family member or you have a legal right to have their death certificates. Phoenix, do you think Brian Koberger will speak his sentences? At sentencing, you mean, Joey? I don't believe so. I believe he will remain silent. If he did not do this and he pled guilty for strategy to show how freaking corrupt Idaho is in their court system, I can give you an ear on that one, by the way. Absolutely. I think he'll be silent. He will reserve the right to remain silent, allow everyone else to have this whole case all around him. He will remain silent. And I think he'll remain silent until proven innocent. He took that plea deal, I believe, in my humble opinion, very quickly to protect a lot of people. He fell on the sword. And that, my friends, is what people with autism do. They will take the fall, even if they didn't do it. I've seen my son do this for other people, to protect other people. You wouldn't believe what my son has done to protect his father. Even though his father treated him like crap, his stepmother treated him like crap, you wouldn't believe some of the things that he did until he stood up for himself and said, I want no contact. I can't believe they did me dirty. Everything is going to stay quiet until this hearing. And I can probably tell you at this hearing, he will remain silent. He has chosen to remain silent. He stood there and didn't even take the first plea until forced to by a court of law. I've seen this before, Mandy. Kaylee's date and certificate, her death certificate is different. I've seen this before in cases where a creditor wants to see the date of death. And, you know, I don't know if this was accurate. I don't know if it was somebody pulling someone's leg, but they reported it to the credit agencies, and this is why we see a different date. Some websites that you go to will have bad information. This could not be verified if it was accurate. Couldn't be verified. Some people say she was rushed to the hospital and she couldn't succumb to her injuries, like Steve G said in an interview. That was either a Freudian slip or it was actually true. I do not know. The only person that can verify that is a family member. I don't believe all four of these individuals are walking this planet. I don't believe they're in WITSEC. Sadly, I do believe they have all passed, especially after the hearing the other day when Judge Hippler did say human being for all four. I know there's a lot of controversy out there saying they're in WITSEC. I believe it was a possibility until we got final confirmation at the hearing that all four of these individuals are no longer here by those names. So if they really had something, they would have never offered him a plea. I think they were forced to offer him a plea based on some information given after either the alternative perpetrators, the sheriff's returns, and or they had pressed the information, they had pressed the issue that he was being held inhumanely with mental issues that were not being addressed and his needs weren't being met and his health was deteriorating. As we can see, he doesn't look that great confident. He's lost some weight. He looks tired and gaunt. This is the first time I've ever really seen him look weak and defeated, in my humble opinion. Hey, Renee, nice to see you here. I know I'm going to keep this really short, but my whole gist was, did the state pick the wrong guy via the feds? I did not see the letter from Bika Barlow. Where was that at, Renee? Let me go and search real quick. Bika Barlow. They had no DNA. How in the world did he take a plea? Let me see if I can find it. Bika Barlow letter. How in the world did he take a plea if they didn't have any DNA other than the knife sheet? I don't see Bika letter. I'm sending this letter everywhere I can. Justice for Brian Koberger. Motion in limine. Prosecutor's office. Prosecutor. I don't see any letter. Tell me a little bit about what the letter is, or send it to me while I'm on here, and I will definitely look at it. I don't even see anything on Reddit. The only thing I last see was from February 25th in the news, and if you've got something earlier, put a synopsis or just tell me what it is, and I'll go find it. Kaylee and Maddie, I don't think are dead. Hippler declined to refer those two as a human being. Only Franz. Do me a favor. Go to my YouTube. I was listening to the hearing live. I recorded it live. I have it on video and audio. And he did refer to them as human beings when asked Koberger guilty. If you blow up that video, the one that ABC has released, someone has manipulated that video. You can see Judge Hippler's mouth moving, and they have changed the audio. I do not know why they did that, but the media has its own agenda, obviously, in my humble opinion in this case. Yeah, I saw that her death was in December. I don't know. Open Mind Perspectives, I don't watch her much, but I heard it's all plain as day with no headphones. You might want to go over to the actual recorded hearing, blow up the video, and watch Judge Hippler's mouth move. Somebody has basically manipulated the video. Organized crime will put moles in jail to go after Nemesis. Yes, they will. Epstein reminds me of one of those that they put in there, and who knows what happened to him. Where do you think they're putting him, at the Holiday Inn? Absolutely not. I think they're going to put him in a in between limbo, maybe a mental hospital or somewhere in between where people can't get to him. I did not see. I have a K-bar. I also Googled K-bar knives right after the unalivings. Thousands of people in that area. Yeah, I mean, thousands of people go hunting and camping and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. I mean, it's an outdoorsy area. They fish, they hunt, they camp, they boat. I mean, those are common things that people have up there, especially hunting. Especially hunting. Let's see what other comments I can answer before I'm done. Yeah, they'll probably announce that he's gone. I heard that the knife was more of a survival knife. Who knows what they used? I mean, if you watch some really good experts, there were more than two weapons used, and that came clear from Kathy Maybutt in the county. Wonder why hers was in December. The truth will come out. Steve G at the hospital for Ramsey Hunt, and no one sign of having it. I looked at the pictures. Okay, wasn't Brian an Army Ranger at one point? Nope, I don't believe he was. He wanted to become one. He wanted to join the military and become an Army Ranger. He did not. Elliot Rogers. There's a gap of history that's missing, I believe, for Brian Koberger. Phoenix, go read the letter. Office. It's a letter from Brian. Go read the letter from Bika Barlow. Where did you see this letter? I saw the letter from Bika. Okay, help me out, guys. Where did you find this letter? Said it happened at the hospital. The judge, human being. They don't have the same date of death. Okay, I got all that. I got all that. It was normal because Steve G had to go to the hospital. He never goes to the hospital. No one told us it was K-bar. Yeah, no one said it was. They assumed it was a K-bar because there was a sheath with the UMC. Now I'm searching everywhere for Bika Barlow's letter. DM comes to a huge knife. There was a huge knife they were cutting watermelon with, y'all. Let me just see. Where did you all find this letter? I don't see any letter. Okay, you guys must be pulling my leg, right? I looked on Facebook. I looked on Instagram. Looked on the TikTok. Is it a fake letter? Don't see any letter. And I don't think these experts, Sherlock Holmes has the letter. Let me just go over there and look at Sherlock Holmes. Let's see if he indeed has the letter. Let's see. And I know a lot of creators have different theories. Sherlock Holmes. Let's see. Isn't Sherlock Holmes the girl, the attorney that has been, I believe that's her. Am I right or am I wrong? Is she the one that was a former attorney? Sherlock Holmes? Anyone? No, I read it on YouTube. Okay. If I think I know who Sherlock Holmes is maybe that's not the girl. No, that's not the one. That's no shit Sherlock. Sorry. Sherlock Holmes, The Art of Coercive Plea Deals, shorts. I don't see a letter. Videos. Let me go look at videos. The Art of Coercive Plea Deals. I see that one. I see the shorts. Playlist. Post. Let's look under post. I genuinely believe, okay, so if these are Brian's true and genuine words in the Idaho 4 case, it's just started. This is not the end. Let me share this with you. Let's see. Are you talking about this letter? Okay, so this no, that's Krabby Abby. Yeah, his name used to be Krabby Abby. So this note, this post says, "This is not the end. On behalf of Mr. Koberger, I would like to share the follow handwritten message. I've decided to accept the charges as logically there is no way to avoid the fixed evidence presented forth. I want to express my gratefulness. Thank you, everyone supporting and writing me personally. You have uplifted me with your support, and it's how I go on day after day. This does not mean we are admitting guilt. This is merely an avoidance to the death penalty unjustly given. We go from here. I love you all. The fight and journey for my innocence is not over. On behalf of Brian Koberger, Law Office of Bika Barlow," gives her email, gives everything right there. Wow. And I know the Paramount video just came out about the Idaho 4. I know a couple of other things that are happening behind the scenes, and it's all manipulated by the media, guys. I think we're finding out the truth little as we go along. A little as we go along. There were 3 people that did this, and one was African American. These are his words given by Bika. I don't think anyone would fake this, but it looks like it came off of perhaps Facebook. Does Brian Koberger have Facebook? Like a gas leak. Yeah, are we being gaslighted? Yeah, you have to wonder, right? Okay, guys, I've been live an hour and 13 minutes and 29 seconds now. Drop your last comments, should you have any, in regards to this letter being released on behalf of Bika Barlow via Brian Koberger. Like I said, I have put money on his books. I have shared messages. I have a few other things that are happening behind the scenes. But is he innocent? Was he wrongly picked by the state and the feds? Which one is it? The never-ending questions will keep on going. It will keep going and going and going until we have a clear picture of what happens. If we even get unsealed documents, which I check every single day. because this case not only has you and me both baffled, now my son is interested in learning more to what happened to Brian Koberger. And if you followed me for some time on the old streets of Tickety Talk, I will tell you there is some interesting stuff in regards to the case that I was following with the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. And what was that? Nick Godejohn also had autism. They also failed him in the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. I go over that. I tell you why. He is right now waiting for his own retrial after filing the motions of habeas corpus, being held within his own unconstitutional right by the state of Missouri, and he is now getting ready to spill the beans on Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Of course, they don't want him to, but that camp is already done with. So until I am back here live, I will be back live with Sunday, with Birdie on Sunday. Um, I believe that we're going to go over the, obviously, the manipulated media's version of what happened in court with Brian Koberger's guilty plea. I think they're wanting to continue this ruse that two of these people are in WITSEC and this and that. Well, the game's almost up. The game's up, media. We are focused and we are watching you with all our little hawk eyes because remember, like I said, you guys, I'm going to call you my hawk chat. You guys are out fighting for the right reasons. You're watching for the right reasons. You're seeing what we're not seeing. All our little hawks in here, you are part of the pack or whatever you want to call it, because birds of a feather, we flock together and we see things that other people don't want to see. And we see things what they don't want us to see. So until Sunday night, you all be well, be safe, happy 4th of July. Enjoy your freedoms because they're never guaranteed, especially in the state of freaking Idaho. As always, make sure you hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. And most importantly, be well.